I got a notice that says it's being sent.
Okay, everybody, we are live now, I think. So, welcome to Layers of Truth, True Crime Collective. This is our very first adventure together, so we will see how this goes. So, if you're watching on YouTube, when I hope you are, I hope it's going there. Anyway, welcome and welcome to Mike and Julie for tuning in here. And we're prepared to talk about a missing person case tonight, and it's about the Chanel Banks case. And I don't know if everybody is familiar with her. She is an actress. She starred in Blue Bloods. She was on Gossip Girls, and I'm sure she's done many other things. But those are the things that I'm familiar with. Now, about on October the 30th of this year, her family reported her missing, and they said she had been missing for a couple of weeks. She showed up 2 days later and said that she was not missing at all. So, anyway, that's the story, and I hope you both have had time to get into it and learn some things about it. And I'm going to pull up something on my screen, hopefully, and we will get started with that. Uh, Bear with me just a moment. Okay. Okay, y'all can see that, right?
Yes.
Okay. The mysterious disappearance and stunning return of Gossip Girl actor Maya Banks. So she's 36 years old, and she's known for her captivating performances and enigmatic screen presence. She was reported missing by her family, who claimed that she had not been seen since October the 30th. The revelation sent shockwaves through Hollywood and her fan base alike. Banks had reportedly not been heard from in over 2 weeks, leaving those closest to her worried and desperate for answers. Her disappearance was marked by troubling silence that was uncharacteristic of the vibrant actress, and people wanted to know, where had she gone? What could have happened? And then, as the Los Angeles Police Department began its search, the public rallied behind Banks' family, shared her photos, urging anyone with information to come forward. Social media buzzed with hashtags like hashtag Find Chanel, and fans from across the globe expressed their hope for her safe return. The clock was ticking. Every passing day without contact seemed to deepen the mystery. And then on Monday, November the 11th, just a couple of days after the missing person report was filed, a breakthrough. Banks was found alive in Texas. The relief was palpable, but the questions remained. How did the actress end up so far from home? Why did it take 2 weeks for her family to hear from her? And was this a case of foul play, a personal retreat, or something else entirely? And then finally some answers came in as to where she was going. Her husband told the police that she needed to get away for a bit, away from her controlling family, and mentioned that she wanted to get baptized by her favorite pastor, Robert Clancy. What could have happened? Her family claimed at one point that she was being held hostage by a cult. How did the actress end up so far from home? When she was discovered, Banks said she was fleeing her family to be baptized by doomsday pastor Robert Clancy, who had recently advertised a 3-day end times prophetic gathering in Texas and claimed her family had abused her. And it actually hadn't been weeks, as her family claimed, but simply 3 days. There was no foul play, according to Chanel. It was only a personal retreat that she desperately needed for her own safety and mental health. So before we get into the videos, what do you all think about this so far? What's your take on this?
Well, I think she was just trying to get away from her family and didn't notify them for the sole purposes they probably wouldn't have gave her the rest she needed or the space she needed, and they would have probably kept probing her for more information, just trying to dive into her personal life and things. And sometimes, we have to step away from everybody. We
Yeah,
have to turn off the media and the devices and just close the doors for our own relief and peace of mind. And that's what she chose to do. And she knew if she didn't do it that way, she wouldn't be able to do it.
I think a lot of famous people, and especially TV and movie stars and celebrities, do have family members that are hangers on and along for the ride and more interested in their um, gains than the person's gains. Um, there's not a lot of real depth investigative stuff on this story, but it sure seems to make sense just from what the family is insisting on, even though the husband, the police, and she is contradicting them. They're not letting um, the cult thing go. They're not accepting anybody else's excuses, and they're the only ones that didn't leave and hide away for a couple of weeks.
yeah,
So you know, I'm familiar with cults and people who join cults a little bit. Um, I just I don't see getting recruited in 2 weeks and losing your mind in 2 weeks and going over the top. I'm sure in some cases it happens quickly, but there's usually reasons leading up to people being drawn towards cults or gangs or whatever. It's not usually something that just happens overnight.
yeah. Oh, Angel has joined us. Hello, Angel.
Hey there.
Welcome.
How are you?
So, what did you get out of this, Julie, so far?
Me? Oh, I already shared once, but I'll share again. Um, that she needed to get away from people, from the family, the media, the overbearing presence of people constantly hounding and being in her circle. She needed to get out of the circle, and create her own space,
Yeah,
and maybe her family, I haven't heard anything said about what they think of, baptisms and Christianity or anything, but maybe they don't like that. And she had to be secretly do this because they didn't condone it.
yeah,
So, it's like we've got to have a little more information here as to, why did she feel she had to hide to do that? Was there a reason? You know?
well, according to her, her family had abused her and controlled her all her life and done all kinds of evil and atrocious things to her. So she made it sound like they were gang stalking her and having people followed her. And she mentioned that it had been a few times that when she went somewhere without their permission, they had called the law on her and told lies about her so she would be apprehended.
Yeah,
So,
that's possible. Some people are like that, but then we have to also check. We need to make sure that this stuff is really true and really happening, because if mental illness runs in her family, that could be a paranoia state that she is in, if she's
yeah,
got some kind of psychosis or something, or it could be reality that maybe she does have that kind of a family. But that's where you got to do the research, you got to do the digging and find out before
yeah,
you make an informed decision.
yeah. And unfortunately, But well, maybe fortunately, there haven't been any charges in this case. So if her family is that evil and doing all that stuff, you would think she would file some charges or something. I don't know. She also mentioned that they had been trying to set up conservatorship to control her money. And since she's an actress, she may very well be a millionaire. So I can see there would be a money issue right there.
So that's highly possible if they're having this issue. That they maybe she has exhibited some signs like Britney Spears in the past when she was all crazy and somebody had to come in and control her stuff because she was out there. And maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they are looking in her best interest because she's full of, or maybe she's the one being victimized by them. So we have to have some investigative stuff going on. Find out what
Yeah,
is the story.
yeah.
Angela, the investigator. What say you?
My opinion on it is I kind of think that, a lot of times when people seem to flee to like cults and things like that, they have a lot of, baggage, a lot of trauma, a lot going on. Um, that may have existed within their family, and they're kind of looking for that escape because that cult kind of offers in the beginning, initially, that family atmosphere, that kind of, they know how to say the right thing to get you in there. So whether this cult was like a great thing for her, I mean, or if it was just, a Christian group, we don't know. But 9 times out of 10, there's something that might have been taking place, within her family or a significant other, or something was going on that drew her into that, group of people, or to research them or to find more about them and try and go that way. Typically, there's something traumatic or something that they've experienced. Usually, like a happy-go-lucky person isn't just going to go looking for, a cult. So,
And of course, her being an actress, she can put off any kind of image she wants to the media and be convincing.
yes.
So who knows, right? Let me share something with you, then see how this um, plays out with you. See if this changes your mind on anything at all. Um, this pastor that she went to see, Robert Clancy, he was a deliverance and healing minister that is based in Perth, Western Australia. And let me just show you something here. This is one of his revival services, and see if this tells you anything about him, changes your mind on him at all. Well, let me get some sound here.
Is it playing for you, Steve?
Steve, can you hear it playing for you? Michael, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I think Steve, I think something's playing for Steve and he can't hear us.
Right.
Okay, what did y'all think about that?
We
We
did
didn't hear
not hear a
anything.
thing.
Really?
No,
Yeah.
we heard some static in the background, so we knew something was playing, but I think it was playing for you, not for us.
Okay, let me try it again. All right, here we go. Okay, you see this, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you see this.
No.
You don't see anything now?
I see where it says videos, typed up stuff, but I don't see a video.
Okay, hold on just a second here. I told you I don't know what I'm doing.
That's
Yeah,
okay. Technology is just something we've got to learn to deal with. We'll get there.
he
Well,
thought I was,
while while we're waiting, he has been pretty much identified as a extreme Christian, and in some cases called a cult leader. Now we don't have I haven't seen any research on it, but I've seen some of the comments that label him extreme Christian and cult. Um, if that's the case, and like Angela was saying, there's usually something going on in the background. Cults usually come off as offering caring and acceptance in a safe place, no matter what their ulterior motives are. Um, I once had a criminal say, I said to a criminal, I said, "You're such a nice guy. You're such a funny guy. How is it you came into the business of killing people? And
yeah.
how do you do that?" And he says, "Well, if I wasn't such a nice guy, would you let me close enough to kill you?"
Okay, to see if you, do you see this now, guys?
Now we
Yes.
can see it. Now we can see it.
Okay.
For we are going to encounter the glory at levels we have not seen before. The time of man worship and idling in the church is coming down in the name of Jesus. He is the God of the suddenly. When his word goes forth, he shall move suddenly. It is God who will suddenly bring revival. Man cannot bring revival. Programs cannot bring revival. Conferences cannot bring revival. But when God says it is time, I declare today, oh Lord, you are taking jurisdiction over the meeting. You are taking jurisdiction over the airwaves. You are taking jurisdiction over the electricity. You are taking jurisdiction over every single person that is hearing the sound of the voice within this hour, because it is like a trumpet that is telling Africa it is now.
Okay, what do you think about that, guys?
Um, Charismatic and loud, which is a way hypnotists to do hypnotism by drawing people with loudness and abruptness, and it pulls them, and it puts an excitement inside of you, which convinces you what's going on is real and true, because they're implanting it into our brains, by what they're doing. They scientifically know what they're doing by everything they do, by
Yeah.
the noises and everything.
And what did you think about him spitting on that lady and she went in this wild dance?
I think it was disgusting. And I think that, but she probably thought that, that was, from the Lord, that was Jesus juice or something, being spit on, when,
Yeah,
it's not. It was just disrespectful. But, you know,
yeah,
the people that show up to those places are looking for something. They're
yeah,
reaching, they want, they need. And, with all the theatrics and everything that's going on in the place, it draws them.
No.
There's
Now, I
a
don't
group.
want to
There's a group.
disparage anybody's beliefs. I've been into charismatic churches before, but even amongst the charismatics and the Pentecostals, that one is extreme. Okay, so it's something I would feel very uncomfortable in.
And there's a group mentality and adrenaline. So it's like, when you go to a peaceful demonstration and one person gets violent, then all of a sudden 50 people get violent.
Yeah,
There's just a gang mentality, a group mentality, and like we were saying, the people that go to those things are looking for something, and they're hearing what they think they need to hear.
and they're promised a lot too. They're promised that the Spirit of God is here, and He wants to heal you and whatever. I can see where if Chanel has come from a family like she claims she came from, I can see where she might be attracted to that.
Mhm.
You know, she might have thought she needed some kind of deliverance from. Maybe she felt like her family was cursed or something. I don't know.
Well, unfortunately, the police kind of closed the case and didn't go on with any further investigation. So they must have been satisfied, at least from her and her husband. Um, and of course, I'm sure they talked to the family members. And so they got a gut sense of both sides. So whether she was truly being abused or not, I'm sure in her mind, she felt justified that she was being abused. And, there was no foul play found. So she went there of her own volition, whatever the reason, right or wrong. She went there, she hid out, and she stayed hidden for a few weeks on purpose.
Yeah. Did anybody find out anything on the husband?
No, just that he talked to the police and he agreed that she needed to get away, verifying that something was troubling her
Yeah.
and verifying that it had to do with getting away from the family.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of details, not a lot of this is exactly what they were doing. They were trying to get her money, they were trying to get her time, they were trying to control her contract. There were no specifics other than she felt pressured by the family and she needed to get away from the family.
It kind of reminded me of the Britney Spears ordeal. Remember several years ago when her dad had the conservatorship over her affairs, and it took her years to get her freedom back?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they're around the same age too. In your 30s, I think, I can see when you're kids, when you're young stars, you need some guidance and you need some
Yeah.
oversight. But as you grow, um, the family has to let you grow and let you grow up. And if you're not capable, then somebody needs to use your money to get you help rather than to use your money just to hang on to the benefits.
Yeah. But unfortunately, people can do a lot of harm while they're telling you they're doing something for your own good. You know?
No, we see that
Or,
all the time in um, wills and estates. The person passes away, leaving exact request. And once they're dead, everybody's arguing what they deserve and what they should have and why they weren't in their right mind when they made those decisions.
yeah.
Um, money, money is really a controlling factor in a lot of sad situations.
especially with like childhood stars, their family lived off that, when they were younger. So they still feel entitled to that as they grow into adult, but that really was never their money to begin with. But, they don't know how to let go of it when it's so much. And so they get those, type of things put in place through the court so they can keep control for their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
People
it's
will do a
unfortunate.
lot of nasty things for money.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah.
unfortunate there weren't more details in this particular case. The good thing is she's alive. She's well.
Yeah.
She wasn't raped or beaten. Um, so I mean, there's some positives out of this story. She got her 2 weeks freedom, and now that this all came public, hopefully she has a little bit more encouragement to make the right decisions and keep people that don't have her best interest at bay.
Yeah.
We can hope.
Well, I've got a little bit more that I can show you on that. I did get a little bit more uh, information. Bear with me just a minute here. Where is it?
Nice thing about our first live shows, there's always room to grow.
Yeah, exactly. Here's an interesting little video. Can y'all see this?
It's not a video yet. Are you going to play it? I
Yeah,
can see it.
eventually when I get there. Okay. Okay, let's see. Where are we? All right. Let me try this again.
We saw the links.
Okay, here we go, folks. You see this, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
False. Absolutely false. If she was abused by her family, first of all, my grandmother would never allow that. There are no police reports anywhere. If she had bruises on her and they say that it happened 14, how many years ago, and she was a school-age child at the time, wouldn't teachers or social workers or therapists or whoever, because she's always was involved in extracurriculars outside of school too. So why wouldn't have anybody? There's not one report on that. There's nobody to confirm that that claim is true.
So do you think she's being brainwashed by this group?
I do believe so. I want to, and I know my cousin, and I know she's a very smart girl. So what I can tell you regarding that is, I've sent out and I've posted the YouTube church video where we did identify her from. You notice that everybody is sitting down or standing up. Why does Chanel make the move to move across the screen? She's a smart girl. She knew they were recording. She knew it was live posted to YouTube, and maybe that was her way of showing the world, hey, I'm here. I can't get out. They have my phone. We're not allowed technology because we're supposed to grow closer to God.
A lot of maybes in her statements.
Yeah, yeah. And she definitely gave everybody the impression that she was being held against her will in that, didn't she?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
but I don't think she was.
yeah,
She had to get there in the first place. You know?
she had planned it. Yeah, she planned
Yeah.
the whole thing. Yeah.
And if she was held against her will, I don't think she would have got away that quick. I mean, she would. Usually they try to hold on to you or, do other things, but for her to walk away like that, that's not common.
She walked away. They let her walk away, and she was found. Cults are very good at hiding people and moving them around and making sure that they're not found in order to protect themselves. Um, and also the my grandmother wouldn't have allowed it. Well, grandma doesn't know everything that's happening in everybody's lives, and lots of criminal activities or abuses don't necessarily leave bruises. There's mental abuse, there's controlling abuse, there's bullying abuse. There's all kinds of abuse that don't leave bruises and
Blackmail,
scars.
blackmail, for example.
Blackmail, um, controlling people are very abusive, but they just don't put their hands on you. And a lot of things, rape and a lot of abuse, goes years and years with no police reports and no documentation and no reaching out of fear, especially with kids and younger people. Their abusers say, "Well, if you tell anybody, it's going to be your fault that the whole family gets torn apart. It's going to be
Yeah,
your fault that mom and dad go to jail. It's going to be your fault that the kids go to um, child welfare." So, there's a lot of reasons people don't reach out to teachers and counselors and clergy and stuff for many, many years out of fear of the reprisal and the consequences of telling your story.
yeah,
We also need to look at the fact that it's possible that this could have just been a staged publicity type thing to
yeah,
get more people to look at her, to see her, to make her become more up and coming, and I don't put it past Hollywood to put things like this together. I mean, I'm surprised TMZ hasn't picked this up, you know. So it could be that as well. So it could be so many different variants that.
yeah. Well, there could be a documentary coming, you
Mhm.
know,
Yep.
and podcasters have been known to dig up all kinds of things and talk about things that nobody else says.
Yeah, you just got to be careful with social media and um, hypotheticals. Could have been, it could have been, it could have been a million things. Um, but when people start making claims, they should have some kind of documentation behind their claims, some
Yeah,
kind of source. Even if it's not definitive, at least uh, an inclination that there is some research and that just sounds like a good story, so let's say it.
yeah, exactly. And when you start talking about, the speculations, the theories, and what ifs and imagine ifs, you can go off in a million different directions. And that's what makes for a good true crime dramas on TV. I mean, we all love them.
We were in the process of negotiating a movie deal about my life story, and I squashed it because everybody wanted to take liberties, creative liberties. And I said, well, no, that's not my story. You can't, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not in it for the fame or the money. I want to tell my story. And if you have a need to be creative with the truth, then we're not doing it. And that's the end of that conversation. And
Some
that's
people would make you a hero, and some of them might make you a big villain. You can't never tell, right?
some might get me killed. So, but you have to be careful because um, what's the motive behind telling the story? Is it recognition? Is it cash? Is it I can get a million hits if
Yeah,
I say it this way? And somewhere the truth gets lost. Um, I'm just happy that it's a solved so far, semi solved, that it's not a missing person that nobody's ever found.
yeah,
So hopefully some things will come to light as time passes, and hopefully the right people will bring it to light.
yeah. And that reminds me of y'all remember the Jesse Smollett thing where he claimed he was assaulted by a couple of black MAGA guys. And y'all know who Jesse Smollett is?
Oh yeah, yeah, from the TV show
Yeah, from Empire.
Empire.
Great
Yeah,
show. It was a couple
yeah.
of years ago. He claimed he was assaulted by a couple of guys and they put a noose around his neck and all this. And he come to find out that was not true, and he done it all for publicity. And he was charged, and then the DA let it go, and then another DA came and picked it back up. He was charged, he was tried, he was given, I think, 6 months in jail. After about 6 days, they let him out, and he appealed it. And now today, I believe it was, they said he wasn't guilty, and they let him out of jail. So, you know.
But bottom line is his entire life and career was destroyed.
I know, and he was a big star on Empire. He had a great role, and everybody, he was on top of the world. You
You
know?
know, and I think sometimes as I was following that, I thought, you know, maybe there was a good intent somewhere in the beginning to bring the subject to light, and then just snowballed out of control and there was no going back.
Yeah. And y'all know once a DA gets something in his head, if he don't have evidence, he or she is going to create it, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And there's always people in jail that they can bargain with, say, we will let you out if you tell this. That happens all the time.
We just did a
Oh,
show on informants, and when they can no longer produce, they don't want to go back to jail, so they make stuff up.
yeah. Hey, I would if I was serving life in prison. I'd think of all kinds of people that done stuff.
Yep.
Get real creative. I'd say, that there undercover guy, hey, Mike Bonfrentry, he wouldn't be what he done.
I got to tell you, there were a few people that I just didn't like, and I would have loved to see go to prison. Uh, but the only thing that was wrong was they weren't criminals and they weren't doing anything that deserved to go to prison. So there is a. I don't believe that it's that easy to frame people and to set them up if they're not somewhat on the edge and put themselves in that predicament. I mean, it does happen, but usually there's a nexus to it, and there's some involvement that puts you too close to being safe.
Yeah,
Because there are a lot of people I would have loved to see go away for a long time, but there's just no evidence, and they just, basically weren't criminals.
yeah,
They weren't likable, but they weren't criminals.
yeah. And sometimes criminals can be very likable.
Very likable. I think in order to be a successful criminal, you have to be very likable.
Yeah. Especially
Otherwise,
if
you,
you're a
you
con
won't have any.
artist.
If everybody hates you, you don't have any victims getting close
Yeah,
enough to you to rob
exactly.
or take advantage of. And that's what people like this young lady and others who are having problems are looking for comfortable, hugging, accepting arms.
Yeah,
And depending on what your trauma is, that could be really strange to you and I, but to somebody in that position, boy, their life is so bad that bad looks good.
yeah, yeah. Julie, tell us more about your story when you were accused of murder. Just
Okay, so I started an early drug addiction because my grandmother committed suicide when I was 12. And so I had no way of dealing with it. So I got hooked on drugs and I met this man who was like 4 years older than me. So I was 14, he was turning 19, and we got heavily into drugs. And we were in a very seedy hotel room doing cocaine, and he flipped out. And he ran and he just lost it. And so these people rushed in to give him aid. And I ran down the hall and put all our narcotics and paraphernalia in the garbage and ran back to the room. And as I approached the room, this lady handed me a phone, and I didn't know who it was I was talking to. And it was at the lobby. And so a few minutes later, some police officers showed up, came into the room, told these other people to get out. And he was laying on the floor. He only had on a pair of jeans, no shoes, no shirt. So you could obviously see there was no weapon. And he was laying on the floor, and his face had some blood on it because he'd run into the wall. And the officer shined the flashlight in his face and said, "Brett, get up." And he said, "I can't." And he asked him again to get up, and he said, "I can't." Then he sprung to his feet, and one of the officers grabbed him by the back of the pants, threw him on the bed. They all pulled out their clubs and started beating his body everywhere, his head, his back, his legs, his arms. And I just stood there. I didn't make a sound. I didn't move a muscle. I was terrified. I was just, and then they grabbed him and threw him on the floor, threw the handcuffs on him, ripped the cord off my little alarm clock, wrapped it around his legs, and tied it to the handcuffs. So he was hogtied. I know that because I was hogtied a lot as a little girl because I had brothers. So the cop took me downstairs, was questioning me, and I could hear him screaming. And I looked over as they were coming down at the stair. There were stairs, then double doors, and there's always one door not opened. And I heard this loud smack, and then they proceeded down and they smacked his head on the door. They didn't bother opening it, and they slid him into the back of the cop car. And the cop told me, "You can go." So I went upstairs, and the people started upstairs because the crowd had gathered because it was a city hotel. Told me, "Julie, go look out the window. Go out, look out." Well, they didn't say Julie because nobody knew my name because I never came out of the room because I wasn't allowed to. Anyways, they said, "Hey, lady, go look out the window, look out the window." So I was looking out the window, and as I was looking out the window, they had opened both the back doors of the cop cars, and they were hitting them, one cop on each side, hitting them, yelling at him to shut up. And then they took him away. And he died 2 days later. I got to see him before he died. He had a chain wrapped around his leg, and he was chained to the bed. He was comatose. His body was huge because the mechanism in his body that was supposed to help clot the blood was not working, so all his blood was turning to water, so all his organs are swelling. And he died. And so yeah, it was a horrible experience.
Yeah. So they framed you for it.
Yes.
Even though they beat him to death.
Yes, they did. They did. And I have tried to get the paper. I mean, I have a little bit of the paperwork because not I at one point I was able to get some of the autopsy reports with some of the pictures, and it shows marks everywhere where the guy wrote notes about all these distant marks and these different things like on his head. Um, they had technical names. I can't think of them now, but different things, hematomas and da da da, and lesions or lesions, and all this stuff. And yeah, yeah. I wrote a book about it. It's called
Oh, yeah?
Wrongfully Convicted. Yeah. So
So did you publish the book?
you know what? I paid a company to publish it, and then they ghosted me. So it's kind of funny. I think I was ripped off, and so it's sitting in my computer still. After I gave them all this money, and can't contact anybody. So yeah. So anyways, yeah, and it's crazy. And people will say, you know, he was the love of my life, and they're like, how could he have been the love of your life? He beat you repeatedly, did all these awful things to you repeatedly. How can he be the love of my life? Because up until the point when I met him, I was already getting beaten by my family and all these people. So that's what love was, right? Isn't that what love was? That's what I thought. That's what I was programmed to believe because my mom beat on me, my brothers beat on me. So if he beat on me, he loved me too, right? Because they loved me, right? I know that's not true now. I know that's not right. None of it was right. But
Glad
I
you learned
will
that.
I will say this is I did have a child with him, you know, And the child, I had to walk away and leave because of the drug addiction and the things. And I had to, in order to save her life, I had to let her stay with my mother.
Yeah.
And so the beliefs that we are implanted into our systems, you know, growing up, we think that's right
Yeah.
because we don't know any better. From 0 to 8, we are learning everything we're going to learn that's going to be part of who we become. You know, and so when we get these things installed into us, we don't know the difference. But I can tell you today, if a man were to hit me today, you better make sure that you hit me good and that I don't get back up. Because when I do, it's over. I'm not going to stay quiet. I'm
Yeah.
not going to cower and I'm not going to hide. You're going to be going on a trip, you know, and I'm going to really thank those nice guys for giving me those beautiful new bracelets because I won't tolerate it.
Well,
Nor
that's a
nor
leap of
should.
waters for you. You know, I mean, where you came from, you thought you deserved that. You thought that was love, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like you said, you didn't know any better. That's what you had been taught.
Yep.
And you could have very well joined a cult.
Yeah. Oh, you know, easily,
Yeah.
easily. Hey, I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. We have like the largest cult there is right here. I'm not going to say, you all know. Salt Lake City, Utah. That's all I have to say.
That's the cult capital of the U.S.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, that's an interesting story, Julia. I'd like to read the book.
Okay. I will. I'll get your email when we get off of here and stuff, and I'll email it over to you. You can read it.
Maybe someday we can talk about that on the podcast.
Yeah, because there's a little bit middle more to it. So you know, I just don't want to talk about that part right now. Cause,
Okay. Okay.
but yeah, it's a good read. You know.
You know, you can publish your own books on Amazon, right?
Yeah, I did that with another book called Preyed on by a Predator, and it just didn't do anything. It just sits there. I just get call after call from other people wanting to republish it and do this, that, and the other, and it's like, yeah, I'm good. It's a
Hmm.
five. I did a book on a 5 year period of my life when I was involved with a predator, and my kids were all haywire, and I tried to kill myself. I told you about that, so that's in there. When I ended up in the coma for 3 days, and that's a book. It's a book. Well, you know what that book was? I'll be honest with you. I threw up in that book. That's all it was about. Was me getting everything that was in there out going on in my world at the time. So I threw up in a book and then I published it.
Well,
Very therapeutic.
yeah. Well, I've written and published 13 books through Amazon, so you know it can be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know a guy that's in the publishing business. His name is Mike, so you might want to talk to him.
I think I heard of that guy. I think I heard of him.
I got fed up one day and I decided to write a book. And I told my wife, and she said, "What do you know about writing books?" I said, "Nothing, but you're a lawyer, so create a publishing business." So she created Lady Law Publishing. And she said, "Now what?" I said, "I'm going to give you napkins and scraps of paper, and we're going to make it sound like a story."
Right
and we
on.
and we self-published our first book. And
So how many books have y'all published, Mike?
I had just published that one book.
Oh,
Um, I've been part of helping other people write books and guiding people into writing books. The movie script is on my website, but it's in a PDF form. We didn't publish it yet because we didn't know where the negotiations were going. So I've got 200 pages of a um, first edition. We were waiting to do the second edition, depending on what our negotiations were, if we were going to do true crime on Netflix or if we were going to actually do a movie. Um, but the first edition is on my website, and I actually sell it in a PDF form,
yeah.
unpublished. and we're waiting to finish it, and who knows when we're going to do that.
Of course, if you sell somebody a PDF, they can give it away and share it to 1 million people.
That's okay. It's publicity.
Yeah.
So my first book was really my I was in business for 30 some years, and everybody wanted a 3-page resume, and I just couldn't fit all my experiences on 3 pages, so I wrote a book and I used that as my resume. And when I was selling my consulting business, I didn't sell books for the $5 a book. I sold books to close consulting jobs, which I was charging $20,000 for. So I gave away a lot of $5 books, and I got a lot of $20,000 clients. So I didn't sell 10,000 books. I was happy to sell 100 books and get 50 clients. So that's how that one worked. So I encourage people in business to write their resume in a book. Sell yourself, who you are, where you came from, what you do, and how you do it, and make it an interesting story instead of 3 pages of bullets. I went to school here. I did this. I did that. I did this. Date to time. Date to time.
Okay.
Many reasons to write a book.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. The book that I enjoyed writing the most was my autobiography. Now, that's a book that I really enjoyed writing because I figured, well, I don't have any kids or grandkids, and I want people to know about me after I'm dead and gone. I want them to hear my version of the story, So that's what it meant to me.
And that's what it's all about, is getting
Yeah,
your version out the way you want to and being remembered the way you want to be remembered, not the way, I kind of get a little disgusted when I go to funerals and all these people are standing in front of the casket telling all their stories about what great friends they were, and I happen to know they haven't talked to the guy in 10 years. you know so write your story the way you want it to be remembered when you're gone, not the way
exactly.
everybody else remembers it
Exactly.
after you're gone.
Yeah. If anybody else wants to tell it differently, they can write their own book, right?
So what are we going to talk about in our next show?
I think we
uh,
should talk about Angel. We can't get her to say anything. Let's talk about her.
she's deep in thought here. um, you gave us some good stories to look at, Angel. um, Anything really pop out on you that you find that's a little bit more in depth than this one, with more facts and more history, more investigations?
Um, there's some older ones, but I was trying to steer clear of that because, everybody's heard them already. But, there's the two girls that were on the railroad tracks close to it. I can't remember where that was. And they're saying now they have that suspect guy, the guy who
Yeah,
did it. And
that's
yeah.
current. That's going
Mhm.
on right now, that they caught him and are charging him.
Is that the guy that is from a different country? Is that the guy we're talking about?
The
The
migrant guy that killed that lady.
the two
Huh?
girls that were walking on the trail, and he was walking behind them and told them to go down the hill.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
but
not familiar with that one.
oh, I might be thinking of a different one because I know right now we got one with some guy that was supposed to be deported and didn't get deported and came over here and yeah.
No, I don't think that's this guy. Is it, Angela? He's local. He was a local guy, I think.
I think he was a local guy, but I skimmed the article when it popped up on my phone. But I think it's a local guy, but I could be.
Yeah, I thought it was local. I haven't. I just kind of caught it in the news a couple of days ago, where they showed the clip. The one girl that died actually filmed him following them. And that's how they were able to, after all this time, track them down and identify them.
Well, there's plenty of cases we can talk about. So, um,
We'll find one.
you say you thought of one?
Oh no, I said we'll get one.
Oh,
There's tons out there, so
So
Angela, Angel,
who-
do you want to be called Angelique, Angelica, or Angel?
everybody says Angel
Okay.
because it's just easier. So feel free.
well,
Well, I think for our listeners, whoever is listening in, this is the link that we're going to be using every Friday at 8 o'clock. The same link to
as far as
tune
I
in next
know,
Friday.
unless I screw up and give another one, I don't know.
Okay. Well, we're going to count on you. We're going to count on you to think you're screwing up, but you don't.
Whoa, what could possibly go wrong, man?
The
All
thrills
righty.
of live.
Well, we'll decide on something and we'll put the word out to everybody. Glad you all made it in tonight.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well,
So next Friday, 6 o'clock, correct? Well, 6 o'clock
your
my
time.
time.
Your
6
time.
o'clock your
Your
time.
times.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
right.
I'll
Let's
put it
do
on
that
my
while we
Facebook
are.
when we come up with a subject and everything, and I'll repost it on my Facebook, send it to my MailChimp listing, my subscribers for my shows. We'll advertise it the best we can and give everybody a heads up. And I think we want to invite as many people as possible to come in and join us and have an opinion and share your opinions
Exactly.
and the stories you want to hear about. Well, we'll talk about it. You tell us what you want to hear because we're here to please you.
Yeah, good deal. Well, with that, we will say good night for tonight, and hopefully everybody enjoyed the show. And I'm going to go over and see if it actually recorded on YouTube like it's supposed to. So,
Okay. Great. We will see you next Friday.
See you next Friday.
I will watch my inbox to see what the subject is so I can read up on it and be prepped.
sounds like a plan.
Nice
Okay.
to meet you,
Thank you,
Julie.
guys.
Nice to
to
meet
meet
you,
you. I will.
Julie.
Nice to meet you, Angeline. Michael, I'm going to go to your site like you gave me and check it out and then talk further with you on some other stuff.
Absolutely. Message me, DM me, whatever. We're
Okay.
always willing to talk.
All right. Thank you. Bye,
Angel,
guys.
very nice to see you again.
Well, good night, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Layers of Truth, True Crime Collective, and we will see you next